I mean, you're getting a lot of bad information that's killing people, and those people should be put in jail.
Oh, ooh. Sean Baker, you need to be put in jail.
That's right.
You're advocating because I'm not willing to change my position, I should be jailed.
Just like racism towards animals not being vegans is not okay, and Sean Baker is an animal user.
Okay, very good.
They want to jail Dr. Sean Baker for his diet, called public enemy #1 for his views about what he eats and what he teaches others. Is this persecution or is it a warranted backlash? Let's dig deeper. Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Westman, and welcome to my channel where I review and debunk nutritional misinformation online. In this video, we're going to hear from Dr. Sean Baker himself and see what kind of hot water he's in now.
All right, apparently I am public enemy #1. Now, this is based upon the people that basically want us to eat bugs and soybean gruel for the rest of our lives. This is, the folks that are involved in what's called the EAT Lancet Commission. Now, these are the people that have developed the so-called diet for planetary health, which is basically pseudo-vegetarian diet where you're allowed to eat something like 2 eggs a week and a few molecules of red meat. It's some ridiculous diet. And it's interesting. Myself was named as #1 of the top 20 or 25, and in that list include other folks that you may know like Nina Teicholz, Ken Berry, Frederick Lavoie. This is, a little bit disturbing.
Well, so if you don't know Dr. Baker, he has kind of put himself out there as one of the leaders of the Carnivore movement, and actually has a company that's starting up and teaching people this. And I know him, I've met him. I think he's reasonable in what he teaches and does. It falls under a low-carb keto sort of metabolism, but even that gets controversy these days. But so what he's talking about actually is a marketing report that came out in advance of the EAT Lancet 2 guidelines. And when I saw that, I hadn't seen it come up in my feed. It's not in a peer-reviewed medical journal. It's in a marketing journal. And sure enough, Dr. Baker is one of the top misinfluencers in this report. And I have never seen such a thing where they hired a marketing firm to basically come out and find the social media influencers who created a backlash for the first EAT Lancet articles. And Lancet is actually a well-respected international medical journal. And so they're getting involved in something that's beyond just the science if they were involved in this marketing survey, a marketing report. But let's see what else Dr. Baker has to say about this. You can see he uses a bit of hyperbole. They don't necessarily want us to just eat bugs, but I think that's part of what they would want the world to be fed. Anything but meat is kind of like their motto. Before I dive into today's video, I want to let you know about something special. Enrollment is now open for my online course, Keto Made Simple. If you've ever struggled with keto because it felt too complicated or you weren't sure if you were doing it right, this course was made for you. I'll walk you through exactly what works, step by step, with no gimmicks, no guesswork, and no complicated tracking. You'll also get live Q&A sessions with me and my team, plus 3 weeks of support, so you'll never be on this journey alone. Enrollment is open until October 27, and I'd love to see you inside. You can find the link right below this video. Now, let's get to today's video.
Now, for instance, some of you guys remember that I've had sort of people that are critical of my nutritional beliefs saying that I should be thrown in jail. We have an example of Dr. Joel Fuhrman a few years ago on a particular podcast saying that I should be put in jail because I'm telling people to eat meat.
I mean, you're getting a lot of bad information that's killing people, and those people should be put in jail.
Oh,
ooh.
Sean Baker, you need to be put in jail.
That's right.
I've seen a debate I had with a particularly unhinged, wacko vegan screaming that she's going to be the one that puts me in jail. You're advocating because I'm not willing to change my position, I should be jailed.
And the big reason for that being illegal, speciesism has to end. It's just like racism towards animals not being vegans is not okay, and Sean Baker is an animal user.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Well, those are idle threats, right? I don't think they're really talking about putting him in jail. What where's the evidence that he actually harmed somebody? That's the kind of the litmus test. You have to prove there's some harm rather than just saying there's harm. So, but this report putting him on the top of over 20 different influencers who are people whom actually I trust. Dr. Baker, one of them, Dr. Barry, another, on the, I think he's number 2 or 3 on this hit list. Well, it's not a hit list. It's a summary of the marketing research of social influencers who were against the EAT Lancet report. It actually includes Nina Teicholz, whom I respect, and also people like Georgia Ede, who is in the report saying that she gets money for pushing the meat agenda. So again, this is a bit bizarre.
And, you know, while I kind of don't really take these threats too seriously, we have to realize that, you know, when people start painting you as this evil villain, you know, disinformation, misinformation specialist that deserves to be put in jail, then some people will act on that. And we've seen that recently with some of the stuff that's been going on in the news, and I won't go into that in detail, but it's safe to say it's somewhat of a disturbing trend. What I've been trying to do, and in many ways I've been successful at it, is basically help people with their health, help people overcome disease, get healthy. You know, I'm a huge believer in eating whole, nutritious food. I obviously lean towards meat as the main sort of thing. I don't sit there and say everybody needs to be on a carnivore diet, but I think it can be very useful for many, many people, and it has been.
And, you know, that's a defining characteristic of someone who's a scientist or just a promoter for other agendas. If you're willing to say this is just one of many different healthy kinds of diets rather than everyone needs to eat this way, that shows that you have a little more, how should I say, worldliness to realize that your way, whatever that the agenda be, whether it's financial or moral or ethical or religious, a scientist or a physician who's based in science ought to say that there are a lot of ways to be healthy, and he's just sticking up for one of them. I respect him for that.
And, you know, also, you know, I'm obviously big on exercise and sleep, and all these things that most people would agree with, I think. But the fact that you have this group that wants to come out there and say, this is the only way that we will accept that you will eat this pseudo-vegan vegetarian diet and you will be happy about it. Remember, these people are funded by groups like the World Economic Forum and some of the actors that are around that. Perhaps some people would say less than pure motivations, right? So these are things we're having to deal with, and they have a lot of power behind that. And, you know, they, you know, in many ways manipulate the media. They manipulate even some of the science. And so we have to deal with that. So it's something that's, you know, kind of interesting and disturbing. My friend, Frederick Leroy, who's a scientist out of Belgium, has written some of this stuff up. And what he discovered was that, you know, the reason they're doing this is back in, you know, 2020 or so, 2019, when they tried to push this EAT Lancet diet on the planet, it was resoundingly, you know, shut down as something that would be nutrient deficient. You know, they lost the public battle in large part due to, you know, folks like myself and others that were saying this is just not acceptable. This is not what we're going to do. So they're getting ready to roll out their second version. And so what they're trying to do is in advance smear all of us that would be critical of that, so that our voices are, you know, somehow discounted as these crackpot crazies that don't know what they're talking about, conspiracy theorists, and so on and so forth. That's not the first time I've been sort of had to overcome stuff like that. So what we'll see is an attack on freedom of speech in some regards around this stuff. You will see people being, you know, shadow banned and their voices being muted and muffled. That's something I've dealt with for honestly a decade now. It's you know, sometimes a little frustrating when you see other messages being amplified. If you're out there selling the garbage junk food, you know, you get promoted with a lot of force behind it when you're trying to do the right thing. So this is something that we need to fight back against.
Well, so it was a bit odd for me to read this report. It's not in the peer-reviewed journal Lancet, but it goes with the idea of preparing you, if you're going to push the EAT Lancet material, to give you actually talking points to watch out for. So I put a link in the description below, and I have to say it was kind of shocking. On the other hand, it shows all of the criticisms of the EAT Lancet report in tabular and figure format that really kind of in plain sight They're saying that the EAT Lancet report has been criticized because the diet's not nutritionally sound. Well, they put that in there as watch out, they're going to say that it's not nutritionally sound. And then in the same figure, they say, oh, watch out. Dr. Baker is going to say things like it's a conspiracy theory to just make more money. And then the report insinuates, because meat is behind it, this is meat-funded people who are just behind the meat industry, which is not true. I know some of the people in this top 20 misinfluencer list. And so even the picture of the front of the report shows a planet made out of meat hitting the nice earth made out of not meat, and as kind of a destruction of the earth. So this wraps up all of the climate change issues that really are not sound scientifically, and kind of cloaking a vegetarian diet in that mantle. And it really was kind of, how should I say, out of bounds, if you will, for a researcher or research group to call out people who are going to be critical of them ahead of time. Now, this has happened before. Now that I think about it, in the medical world, there was this very prominent researcher named Ansel Keys. And Ansel Keys was one of the proponents of the cholesterol is bad. At his early career, did the 7-country study that put, cholesterol is bad on the map. And then he wrote some scathing articles about anyone who didn't believe this had to be, quacks and didn't follow the science, when actually the science was very weak in his favor. So the idea of bullying within the academic world is not new. And the idea of having those in the power position fund research to preempt their program that's coming out because it didn't play well in the world, because social media does have an impact. They even call out X, Twitter, now called X, as a non-evidence-based, and it's gone crazy. And anyway, it was very interesting and shocking at the same time to see this. And that's why Dr. Baker is bringing this up, because he's number one on that list. And it could, in people who don't know better, people who are kind of zealotous, like the young woman who, said, Dr. Baker should be jailed. These folks don't know, and maybe do things that they would regret to do. And it's not following the science, which is what we're all trying to promote as best we can.
Also, some of you have said that this is something you should be proud of. Being named on the top of the enemies list for these people that have this goal of having us all eating bugs and soybean slop. And I'm certainly happy that I've made a difference, but at the same time, it's a little bit disconcerting to think that there are people that are targeting you. How far they would be willing to take that is unknown, I think particularly in this day and age. So I'm not going to be silenced. I'm going to continue to speak what I feel is the truth. And hopefully we can have a scientific and adult-like discussion around this. And if you disagree, you're welcome to disagree, but the results are what they are. I mean, what I'm talking about has gotten a lot of people results, and I'm sure you folks that are watching this, and I'm sure inevitably there'll be comments around this saying that, we are helping people. And I think that's at the end of the day. I personally don't care what you eat, as far as that's concerned. And that's, obviously the major area of contention around me. I like, as a physician, and remember, this is what my profession, is, and why I went into medical school, was to help people get healthy. And if you get there through X, Y, or Z diet, it doesn't really matter. It just matters that you get healthy. And the fact that we find these diets that seem to be very efficacious, and a lot of people want to shut that down because it detracts from their ability to profiteer off of your illness. These drug companies and some of these hospital systems, they like you being dependent upon this.
Well, so what we heard was Dr. Sean Baker responding to being number one on the anti-EAT Lancet social media list, because he had the most views and had the most impact against the EAT Lancet report when it came out in 2019. And I know a lot of the people on this list is a who's who of low carb and keto in many ways, because the science really, it doesn't go along with EAT Lancet. Well, the science that's not nutritional epidemiology. And so if you've heard me say correlation is not causation, most of the information in the EAT Lancet report is based on nutritional epidemiology. You saw Dr. Walter Willett in one of the pictures there, who coined the term and wrote the textbook. So this correlation, that's hypothesis generating research. It's not to the level of having a doctor use a prescription in the office. That level of evidence has not been achieved by EAT Lancet. So very interesting to see, and it's unprecedented in my memory to have academic people kind of preempt an article to say, be prepared, there will be people to say the article isn't scientific, and here are those people. And I will be interested to see how this plays out. Hope you like this video, and if you like, please like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and look out for new content on Wednesdays and Fridays. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our YouTube membership for early access and exclusive live Q&As with me. Just click the join button below, or support us with a PayPal in the description.